Now, what's up with that? What was your thoughts on the Henderson Shogun fight?
It was the greatest fight in the history of fights.
The greatest?
Yeah, I think it was the greatest fight of all time. Yeah, I do.
Of all time?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it wasn't because both guys were in the best shape they could have possibly be in, and it wasn't because, it wasn't because they were at the top of their game. It was because it was so fucking real.
Yeah.
It went back and forth, and Shogun came so close to getting stopped. And Dan Henderson, god damn, can he punch hard. He broke Shogun's whole face, dude. Yeah. Shogun's whole face is fucked. He might have to get his face put back together again. He's got like orbital fractures and cheek fractures and shit. Yeah. And he gutted through that and then wound up taking Henderson down. I mean, dude, it was crazy. I mean, it wasn't the best display of defense versus offense or two guys that, in the putting on like a GSP Anderson Silva type performance. But what it was fucking, as far as like matchups, you couldn't get a tighter matchup. They were so close.
It ended just like Rocky 1.
Yeah.
When Rocky basically beat his ass and Apollo Creed got saved by the bell at the end. And they were like, Apollo thought, Rocky won, but he wouldn't say it. He wouldn't admit it.
Well, Dana said that he thought that it was a draw. I honestly haven't watched it again. Like if you there's a thing about when you're doing commentary, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to explain what's happening. And you're not looking at it as like very precisely and cleanly as if you were writing down things only. Like remember when you used to judge? Eddie had a system and it was pretty smart. He broke down a piece of paper and then he would have one guy's name on one side, one guy's name on the other side, and then you would break it down by strikes, takedowns. Yeah. You had like all these different categories and you would check off each category.
And I'd have like a shorthand method for different flurries and different punches so that, man, you forget. By the end of the round, you will forget. You look back and I'm like, okay, in the beginning of the round, he had a takedown. That's right. You forget certain
especially if something really big happens.
Yeah.
And then you get locked onto that for a second.
Yeah, you can forget what happened in the beginning of that round. So, and then you put it all together, and when it's close, I just look at, damn, okay, he had two big right hands. He had a 5 leg kicks. He had a takedown. And I have some time to think about it. And I go, and you could, instead of thinking about it in your head and going back and forth, you actually see what happened.
Yeah, there's so many times where it's a 10-9 round where they just fucking flip a coin, man. It's like, who the hell knows? There's some 10-9 rounds that really should be draws, know?
There's got to be a difference between one of those rounds where nothing really happened, but dude landed 3 leg kicks and the other dude landed a good left hook to the body, and that's it. That's a 10-9 round, and then the last round of Henderson Shogun is a 10-9 round too. Like they got to give more 10-8s. They got to give more 10-10. They got to, and I hear the commission is telling these judges to not give 10-10s and not give 10-8s. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. They should give more.
I think people don't want to see, they don't want to see draws. They want to see a clear, decisive decision. But sometimes the correct answer is it's a draw. And you can't make a winner if you don't want to. You shouldn't. You shouldn't as a judge. I hope no commissions actually encourage them to do that, because that seems like they're meddling with the results.
Yeah, that's what I read on the underground, but
that might not be right. We should be careful before we say something like that.
Yeah, that's just a rumor that the commission is telling the judges. I mean, I think that's real.
Not. I hope that's not true. That seems like they're tampering with the results. Saying that you have to pick a winner on one side or the other. There are times where you shouldn't pick a winner. It's going to be unfortunate. Yeah. But there are fights that are draws, man. There are fights that are absolutely draws. Like a lot of people, the Frankie Edgar Gray Maynard, the second fight. The crazy one.
Yeah.
The last one was crazy too. The third one was pretty fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
But the second one, that's about as close to a draw as you're going to get, right? Yeah. Don't you think?
You know what? I have to see it again. I don't remember.
I have to see it again too, but I remember thinking like back and forth, and what a first round for Gray Maynard, and Frankie Edgar was any 3 out of 5 judges could have easily stopped that fight. If they're trigger happy, if they'll stop fights early. Either one of those knockdowns. There's a few knockdowns where he went down where a judge who's like ultra careful would have stopped it.
Yeah, or just like the Shogun. Shogun could have easily been stopped. It felt like it should have been stopped like for a second. But when you can't really say that, because the fight wasn't stopped and it was let go, and Shogun did come back. So that was great refereeing by Josh Rosenthal.
Yeah.
To me, Josh and Herb, they're just
the best.
The best. They don't stop shit too early. Nothing pisses me off more than, as far as a ref goes, is stopping a goddamn fight too early. Shit.
Yeah.
Let's see a decisive winner.
I said that about Cung Lee and Wanderlei Silva. I said I don't agree with that stoppage because Cung Lee was still holding on to a single and Wanderlei hit him with a couple of hammer fists. But then, when Cung got up, he didn't seem to complain, and his nose was smashed. And maybe the referee being closer to the action had a better idea of that. Cung was probably close to stopping it anyway.
I thought the same thing.
But I saw the hammer fist, and I was like, that's not enough, man. It's like the guy's still trying. Because, look, Shogun came back, and he was still trying. I like to see
Brock
guys.
came back. Remember Brock came back? Fights that could have easily been stopped.
Yeah.
Just,
I like to see guys come back. It's fun. I don't mean, to be disrespectful to a referee or anything when I say they shouldn't stop it. It's just an opinion thing. You don't have to agree with it. But I think you got to give guys the opportunity to win. You got to give guys the opportunity. If he's still fighting, he wasn't covering up and in a ball and in the fetal position, eating shots. He was grabbing his leg. And he's very likely done. Very likely would have just taken even more unnecessary punishment. But I think you got to give him a chance, Dudes can pull shit off, man.
Yeah.
Dudes, And Cung Lee's a bad motherfucker. I'm not saying that he would have pulled it off, but it ain't a bad stoppage. It ain't a bad stoppage.
It appeared to me as well, right when he stopped. I'm like, oh man, that was too quick. But he didn't get up on his feet for a while. He stayed on his knees.
It was a good stoppage. Yeah. It was a good stoppage, but it was like a judgment call that he made over, Cung trying. He's like, I think you're done, and he was right. He was right, and maybe he would have been able to pull something off, but most likely not. Most likely he would have just taken more shots. And, Wanderlei Silva was like vintage Wanderlei Silva in that fight, dude. When he got the clinch and was delivering those knees, damn, I was like, I remembered how awesome he was with knees when in the Rampage fights and Pride. He's one of the best, man. When he gets that plum clinch on your neck, oh, my God.